Welcome to the Cocktail Guru Podcast,
a show about food, drink, and entertainment,
with a tight focus on the good life,
and all things delicious, luxurious, and fun.
I'm Jonathan Pogash, bartender, author, and the host of Cocktails The Grand Tour.
And I'm Jeffrey Pogash, wine and spirits professional, author, insatiable collector of culinary ephemera, and so people tell me, an engaging raconteur.
And my dad. Dad, your shirt is looking really, really great.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Thank you. This is my... we wear tiki shirts, Greg, for all of our podcasts. Yes, we don't do anything except tiki shirts.
Yes, we do. I'm wearing my flamingo shirt. Dad, you prematurely introduced our guest by saying Greg. You said his name, and that's okay. That's okay. I know you're looking confused.
Yes, I didn't know we were recording.
Well, we are. Hey, we're recording.
Okay, that's even better. Fantastic. But the shirt is in honor of our next guest because he did publish a book that is a tiki book, at least one tiki book that is called Sippin' Safari.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Yes. You're getting ahead of yourself here. We need to have our cocktail first.
That's correct.
Can you tell me what you have?
I have a Vieux Carré, one of my all-time favorite cocktails because I adore cognac, just love cognac, and the combination of Benedictine and sweet vermouth and Peychaud bitters and Angostura, just incredible, just delicious. And I've topped it off with 2 delectable cherries because there's nothing better. To me, cherry is the ultimate garnish. I'm sorry.
Well, these are real
cherries. Yes.
Oh yeah, and I have. You want to know what I have, Dad? You didn't even ask me what I had.
Please, because I assumed you would tell me, but go right ahead.
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now. I have a French 75, but if you can, for those of you at home watching on YouTube, you see the color. It's kind of purple, and I added this thing called Ballure, which is a really cool cocktail ingredient. Butterfly pea flower makes drinks that contain acid purple. Dad, you've seen that before,
yes,
right?
Yes, I have.
Cheers, very nice. Cheers. Can you raise your glass?
I'm doing it right now. Cheers.
Just raise your glass. Raise your glass. Cheers. Let's have a sip. Delicious.
Delicious.
And we'll bring out, you got a lot of paper shuffling. Try to keep it down.
I'm always shuffling papers. I'm a paper shuffler.
What do you have for us today, Dad? What do you have?
Well, we have a very special guest with us because he is someone I first met a number of years ago, thanks to my hobby at the time, which is still my hobby.
Obsession. Oh, sorry.
Obsession of collecting first edition rare cocktail books. He happened to be publishing facsimile copies of some truly classic books under the Mud Puddle Books imprint. I think that you, Jonathan, my intrepid co-host, first told me about Mud Puddle, and I called our guest, who then kindly invited me to his office to look over his impressive collection of rare first edition cocktail books. There were thousands of them, I think, at the time. I know there are many thousands now. After that, I continued meeting up with our guest, Greg Boehm, at different trade events like Tales of the Cocktail. And that's, of course, in New Orleans. And that is my first experience meeting with our next very special guest.
And since that time, Greg has, to put it mildly, branched out to become one of the leading sellers of bar equipment under the name Cocktail Kingdom, and most impressively has also become one of the leading bar owners in New York City and around the world, I think we can say. So this is very interesting and very exciting, and I'd like to now welcome on Mr. Greg Boehm.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Greg. Great to see you. And you notice in the background behind me, I have an array of Mud Puddle and Cocktail Kingdom facsimiles.
Yeah, I see some of my old friends there. Everything from Charlie Paul.
That's right.
There's a lot. There's a lot behind you.
Yeah.
But before we get into things, Greg, we always ask our guests this one question: what is your desert island cocktail or your desert island drink? If you were stranded on a desert island.
So it's kind of interesting to ask me that right now because one of them that you're drinking there, the Vauqueré, is absolutely my go-to
really?
cocktail. The one that
Wow.
I wouldn't say I drink it the most often of other cocktails. So that would definitely be the drink that I search out the most. I always had an affinity to it, just having been created at the Hotel Monteleone, where Tales of the Cocktail was held for many years, added to the romance. It predates the Carousel Bar, so it wasn't actually created in the Carousel Bar, although some people seem to think it was.
Right.
But yeah, so I think that's probably dark and stirred is what I go for. I mostly drink mezcal, but for cocktails, definitely the Vauqueré is.
Wow. Well, I like you, Greg. I definitely like you.
If he didn't like you before, he likes you now. No, he liked you before.
If you didn't know it before, you know it now. I have a very rare cognac in here, by the way. So
what do you have?
Better. I have Richard Hennessy cognac, Richard Hennessy cognac in here from my stash.
Hey, Greg, we're gonna take it back. We're gonna start from the very beginning. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Westchester County in New York, and then lived in Manhattan by far the majority of my life. And my family has been in New York for, I think I'm 9th generation.
Wow, a very rare native New Yorker. Wow,
I'm an actual New Yorker.
Wow, that's amazing. So kind of Dutch settlers?
Wow.
Is it that far back?
Great grandfather's sister was in the first boat of Jews to ever arrive in New York.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah. 1634, I think.
Wow.
Did you say the first Jews?
Yes. First boatload of Jews coming to the United States.
A boatload of Jews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was the name of my band in high school, Boatload of Jews. No, it wasn't. So growing up, did your family had a book publishing business? Is that correct? Or games?
My grandfather started the Guinness Book of World Records, and my father kind of built it to what it was. And we had a family business called Sterling Publishing that was a large private publishing company, and that is how I got into booze at first, was through some books that we published.
So that's interesting. With the Guinness Book of World Records, did you grow up being introduced to a lot of these Book of World Records holders and kind of I don't want to say circus acts, but you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was definitely part of my childhood. We also own the Guinness Museum.
Oh, really?
And we would go there, and there would be some of I met the world's tallest woman and the world's fattest twins and the world's longest fingernails.
Wait a second, I pass a Guinness Museum all the time.
So, that's part of my family's past, not the present, but yeah, definitely part of my childhood.
Wonderful. Very rich, complex childhood. Yeah. I see.
It was interesting.
Wonderful.
And did you kind of grow up with booze around, or
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, my father is extremely into wine. My mother was always ordering sidecars, and this is the 1970s and early 80s, and she would ask everybody, well, do you make them with fresh lemon juice? And they'd be like, no. And she's like, well, you're a restaurant, you have lemons, don't you? And they'd be like, yes. And they'd be like, and my mom would have people make like proper sidecars.
Wow. So forget about Dale DeGroff. I mean, your mom was kind of
the leader of the cocktail revolution. Leader. Yes.
It was a long time ago. And then, and then my father published the book Windows on the World Complete Wine Course with Kevin Zraeli.
Right.
After he took the course, and Kevin didn't really want to write a book, but then my father recorded the lectures and turned it into a book. And then my father published Salvatore Calabrese's Classic Cocktails, which is really how I got into every.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then I actually introduced Dale DeGroff to Salvatore Calabrese because we did the book launch for the Classic Cocktails book at the Rainbow Room.
Oh, wow.
And you met Salvatore, I believe, at the Lanesboro?
When I first, he was at the library bar at the Lanesboro. My father met him when he was at Duke's. But I personally met Salvatore for the first time at the Lanesboro Hotel
in London. Yes, and I first met him at the Savoy when I was leading a trip there, and we had a great time at the American Bar. Wonderful time.
Yeah,
that's a great spot.
But I think I went to your father's office, and he's the one I possibly met. This was a long time ago, because I was trying to look for a publisher for a book idea that I had. And somebody suggested, and my office was on Park Avenue, and Park Avenue South, and I believe that's where Sterling was located at the time.
Well, it's 387 Park Avenue
Yep.
South,
Well,
right?
we were just a couple of blocks away. And I went and tried to pitch the idea, and it was probably your father I was speaking to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How did the pitch go? Did you blow it?
Well, it didn't work. I don't think I blew it, but it didn't work. It was not enticing enough for them to say yes. But that's okay. I keep trying.
Yeah.
30 years later, I'm still trying.
And during the time that you lived in New York City, you worked for the family business
real quick, I started not working for the family business because I wanted to try something else, and then I went into the family business, and then we sold Sterling Publishing to Barnes & Noble many years ago, at which point I started Mud Puddle, and was mostly publishing children's books, and then started doing exact facsimile reproductions of antique cocktail books, which then I met bartenders, people like Don Lee, Jim Meehan, and the like, and Sasha Trosky, and all this whole group, Audrey Saunders. And then I started importing barware. And then after importing barware, I realized there was an opportunity to make things a little bit better. So I started designing and manufacturing barware, designing meaning getting input, because I wasn't truly an expert, getting input from many, many of the best bartenders of the time, or the most vocal ones. And we started Cocktail Kingdom as a design and manufacturing company, which it is now.
And your extensive vintage cocktail book collection, when did that obsession begin?
Around 16 years ago, when I was drinking cocktails at Salvatore Calabrese's bar, and then I became obsessed with cocktails and didn't really have an outlet for it in New York. At the time, Angel Share existed, but I didn't know it existed. And so I was really into cocktails. So I bought my first cocktail book in London at an antiquarian bookstore. And then I bought a second cocktail book. That was Paul E. Lowe's 1904 edition, a pocket-sized book. And then I got a second book, which was that I bought at a bookstore in New York, and I started collecting cocktail books and became pretty obsessed with them about 16 years ago.
And this one,
Dad is
this
showing
one
us
was
something,
important to you, I believe.
The Louis Mixed Drinks from 1906, the first book to have a dry martini in it, called A Dry Martini.
That's right.
And that was, different books have different meaning to me. That one was super important. One of my earliest books I got. And it's also just physically beautiful. So some books have good information. Some have the first cocktail, which first dry martini is significant. Some are just gorgeous. Some have things like, Bottoms Up, which has the dry shake in it in the 1950s. I didn't know that was an older thing. So different books gain meaning for different reasons.
Of course.
But now we have a working research library with over 3,800 different books that Martin Duderoff helps me maintain. And it's kind of an amazing place.
Yeah. Well, I remember going to your office, many years. Actually, when the hell was that? I think I was working on opening the Empire Room in like 2009 or 2008. And I wanted to take a look at some old books and do some research. And you kindly, and you were doing that to anyone who asked. You would have them come in, and and it was a research library. And it sounds like you're kind of back to doing that.
Yeah, we are. We just moved the books into a new location on West 8th Street, above one of my bars called Mace.
Yes.
In New York City. And by appointment, but anybody who wants to come in and do research is welcome to do so. And there's access to thousands of antique cocktail books and some modern ones, obviously, so people can do proper research. But they're there.
And then if you stay long enough, you can go to Mace and have drinks.
Yeah.
Starting at around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm there. Let me make an appointment now, Greg.
He's on his way. I want to, we're going to talk more. We're just going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
John, I think you know by now that Glenmorangie is one of my favorite single malt Scotch whiskies. I have made many a fine cocktail with the original, which is a spicy and well-balanced classic Highlands malt, and with the other expressions, which provide an array of delicious and complex flavors.
Dad, they're all perfect for sipping neat, or with a dab of water, or an ice cube, or, hey, even as the base spirit in a cocktail. Glenmorangie is the perfect choice for parties or relaxing with friends, or when you visit your favorite bar or cocktail lounge.
As you can see, John, there is something for every taste with the Glenmorangie portfolio.
Oh man, I can't stop thinking about the Quinta Rubin, Nectar Dior, the 10-year-old, the Lassant. The list goes on and on. I'm so enamored with Glenmorangie, and we've been working with them for a very long time, Dad.
And rightfully so. All of those expressions are scrumptious.
Cheers.
Cheers, John.
And now we are back. That was fast. Dad, when did your obsession start with the cocktail?
You know,
books?
it's a good question. It started, I guess, in 1993, when I first arrived at Shefflin and Somerset Company. You know, I was so happy to have a job there at one of the finest importing companies in the United States at the time. And then up until then, I was working with wines only. But then I entered the world of spirits because the company had both wines and spirits. And that's when I started learning about recipes and cocktails and thinking about collecting old books. And it's when I met David Wondrich and all of our other friends. Your mentor, Gary Regan, for example, they then encouraged me to look for these books because they could see how interested I was. And it just took off from there.
You have how many books would you say you have, Dad?
I'm embarrassed. I don't want to say because Greg has so many more than I do. He has thousands. I don't have thousands. I don't even have hundreds. I have.
You probably have.
Yeah, but I remember your collection's quite curated. I mean, that's
it's very small. It's very small, but I look for books that are in very good condition, great condition. And I could kick myself for doing this, but I had the golden opportunity, to buy a true first edition. Now I have these books, one of which is in back of me, Jerry Thomas. And I decided since I already had two of them, I wasn't going to get another one. And I passed on the opportunity. It was a golden opportunity. Would have cost me about $300 for the book. And I said no. That's my greatest regret.
Greatest regret in life.
In cocktail book collecting.
Greg, would you say that Jerry Thomas book is still kind of the unicorn out there these days?
The only version that's exceedingly rare is actually the 1882 version that has the $1.50 price on the cover. That's extremely rare. And then the 1876 second edition is the next rarest one. And there's a few versions, and he may or may not have updated that himself. He was alive compared to the 1887 third edition, which he wasn't alive, so he couldn't have updated.
You don't mean the 1862 edition, do you?
I missed
1862.
I'm a little rusty.
The $1.50 price was 1862.
Yeah, no, I did. I misspoke. 1862, the first book that's considered the first cocktail book.
Right.
So yeah, the 1862 version with the $1.50 on the cover is the rare one, and then 1876 is also really quite rare. But rare, I mean, in my world, we get into such tiny minutia and what makes something rare. I mean, I can look at different versions of the Jerry Thomas books and tell you when they were probably printed. Even if they're essentially almost identical, there's certain tells. And so, yeah, it is. I mean, it's definitely, obviously with David Wondrich writing the book Imbibe about Jerry Thomas just adds to the mystique of it as well. But there are definitely a lot of other books that are much, much rarer.
And what is I'm always curious because I've really seen the evolution of cocktail book collecting. since nobody was really doing it when I started off, in 2001, and then really. It seems like when I was invited to your office and I saw all of this, then I kind of noticed, hey, everybody's getting these vintage copies and they're becoming worth so much. Has there been a clear sort of evolution arc of kind of the rare cocktail book collecting?
Yeah, I mean, the values have gone up and down. I mean, mostly up, but a little bit down. And then there's been a few, like the Gun Club drink book, which is essentially not a good book.
It's not.
But it became
rare.
I
have it in the collection, but I agree with you. It's not a great book.
But it became like this lore because there was one copy on eBay that once sold for $2,000. I have no idea why. And so it is funny, like collecting with anything. There's certain things that become something that people are looking for, but ultimately disappointing when they own them.
Yes.
But there's some books like Scientific Barkeeping as a title that from the 1800s that I don't have a first edition of that I'm looking for. It's such a mediocre book.
I saw one of your interviews with your friend Eric, and you said in that interview that you were looking for a book by Applegreen.
Yeah,
and I believe I have that. I was looking all over for it. I think I don't know. I don't know if you know what it looks like, but
I've seen an image of it. Yes, but I've never.
Is it a small black book, like a black?
It can have a green cover, a black cover. It's about 4 by 6.
I have it somewhere in this house.
Whoa, you should find that. That's kind of
but I don't know if it's the first edition or not. You said you were looking for the first edition.
There's 3 editions that I know of, and all 3 are exceedingly valuable.
I believe I have that.
What are we talking? How much are we talking here, Greg?
It's not
first edition's into the thousands, certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no known copies outside of one in a library. There's no known copies in a private collection.
So, and Dad, you think that you
I
have
do.
this?
I'm pretty sure that I do.
Okay, there's one copy in a private collection.
Well, you need to find it then.
I had spent hours this morning looking for it. But I have books in varied and multifaceted places in this house, and I just couldn't come up with it in time for the interview. But I know that I have it somewhere.
And there was a time you were looking through the New York Public Library auction catalog. Was that the auction catalog?
No, the rare book collection.
Oh. No. I'm talking about. I'm sorry. There was a Jerry Thomas up for auction. For $25,000.
Yes.
$25,000.
Yes. But that was sold by our friends up in Maine, the antiquarian book dealer in Maine.
And they were selling it for $25,000?
New York Public Library, yes.
And that went through?
Yes,
that's like that's what that book is worth? That book is worth $25,000?
I don't know. That doesn't mean it's worth that. That's what they paid for it. But depending
exactly which edition.
It was the first, I believe, the very first edition. But
if it has the $1.50 on the cover and it's still a high price. But if it has the $1.50 and it's in good condition and it's the green one, not the red one, it could be worth a lot.
Well, I have a green one and a red one.
With the $1.50? No. Yeah,
$2.50.
Yeah, the reason I say the $1.50 because the price went up over the years, and there's the $2 version, the $2.50 version, which was a very expensive book in 1862.
Yeah, yes, a very expensive book. Yes,
we need to bring up your bars because there seems to have been in your career or professional. Actually, I was just listening to a podcast with Ken Burns, and he doesn't call it career; he calls it professional life. Which I think is because career kind of boxes you in. And anyway, so professional life, where you transitioned from the books and even the bar tools to owning bars. It seemed, Dad, you were saying it seemed.
Yes, I wrote this as part of our script, and I said these bars just came out of nowhere. That's how it seemed to me. And when I started reading about them, I had no idea that you, Greg Boehm, was the owner of these places, especially the latest one. I think it's the latest one, Katana Kitten.
Yeah, Katana Kitten.
That's amazing.
It's Katana. I mean, I travel in Japan. I lecture in Japan a lot, in Tokyo specifically. And the Katana Kitten is based on the Shinjuku neighborhood of Tokyo, which I'm fairly obsessed with. So Katana Kitten. And then before that, when Mace was in the world's 50 best bars for 3 years, which I partnered with Nico De Soto.
Yeah.
Because he was one of my favorite bartenders after having met him at Experimental Cocktail Club.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then there's
the Cabinet.
The Cabinet is my newest obsession. That's my mezcal bar. I'm pretty sure we have the largest collection of mezcal in the United States, and nobody knows about us. We have hundreds. I'm in Oaxaca every 8 weeks.
Really?
Maybe.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I just got back day before yesterday. And so I definitely do a ton of, I'm learning about mezcal, bring people in to help with mezcal education. But yeah, so between Katana Kitten, my mezcal bar, the Cabinet, and Mace, which is now in a much larger location in the West Village, I feel pretty fortunate. My bars have certainly thrived.
Well, I need to go to all of them, but Katana Kitten was tops on my list.
Well, yeah, that was, I think, number 10 in the world's 50 best bars this year, which is the highest ranking bar in the United States. And it's just hospitality based. It's amazing. Masa's a great host. The drinks are good. It's kind of the full fun package.
Well, I'm there. And
it's a 9-minute walk from the library and from Mace. So it's all in one.
Well, I can
kill
3 birds with 1 stone then. Great.
Yeah, exactly.
I will do that.
Well, we'll go, Dad. We'll be in New York City together soon, and we'll go to all of these places.
No, I'm going to go there before you get here, I think.
Dad.
Okay, I'll wait. That's fine.
Thanks.
Because I probably wouldn't get in unless I had you next to me.
No, you get in. So now the bar tools. Everybody knows about your bar tools and how you used to source them all from Japan, and then you were probably realizing, hey, I could have these manufactured myself and sell them myself, and it would be more cost effective.
Well, with that, I was sourcing from Japan and Germany, and actually we got too big, and the people I was working with in Japan didn't want the quantity. And I was forced to start designing and manufacturing stuff. And then based on historical elements, I realized there was a lot of historical pieces of barware that didn't exist and hadn't existed since either late 1800s or certainly since Prohibition, let's say.
Yeah. So
it was a combination. Then we just started designing and manufacture our own. And then we put our name on it and did well.
And really, I think you guys seem to have been one of the first brands or companies to partner with bartenders and cocktail influencers on products. Which
it was based on the skateboard world. Sort of working with people to design products, everything from Dave Wondrich, Gary Regan, Audrey Saunders. Even with Nico De Soto and other people who had a specific idea. Jim Meehan, we have some spoons with measuring spoons. So it was different people we were working with that had ideas. And certainly Jeff Beach Bumberry with his tiki line. And we, as a publishing company, I still own a publishing company. We published his books, Sippin' Safari and Potions of the Caribbean, and did a whole line of tiki barware with him. So it's been growing. And it's been really great. The new Audrey Saunders sour glass has been doing increasingly well. And it's fun to work with people who have a different idea on what should be out there that maybe is not readily available. And then Cocktail Kingdom brings it to market.
Now, as an entrepreneur, I really want to know, Greg, how the hell do you just keep everything straight in your brain? Because there's so many things, and I feel this way too. Like my brain is so packed with all of the different things that I have going on and trying to keep track of everything. What is your secret?
It's really, I am surrounded by good people and I tend not to get as stressed as other people. So let things kind of play out. And during November, December, I sort of lose it because I also have the Miracle Christmas pop-up cocktail bar franchise.
And you have 90 of those throughout the world?
140.
Now it's 104. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So 101 Miracle locations and 40 Sipping Santa locations, which is the Tiki Christmas version with Beach Bumberry. And this year we're projecting 200.
Holy crap.
So that's when I do get to a point where I just lose it. And that's trying to keep up with manufacturing and creating barware and creating glassware for Miracle. And then But it's interesting. The way I actually do it is I'm so obsessed with mezcal right now. That gives me having, it was cocktail books. I still love my antique cocktail books, but that obsession gives me energy to do everything else. And now it's mezcal, and I'm exploring mezcal, going to Mexico, and now came back 2 days ago, and I'm bursting with energy and ready to sit down and stare at some spreadsheets for the next 2 weeks. Wow. It's a balance.
Oaxaca is wonderful. Jonathan and I made a trip to Oaxaca, and it was
it's magical.
Incredible. Yes.
And you run the Miracle Bars kind of like a franchise type of situation, yeah?
Similarly,
and are they they were called Christmas Miracle Bars originally?
It's Miracle. So if you're on Miracle on Broadway, or if you're on First Street, Miracle on First Street.
But it was designed for the Christmas period. No?
It's just Christmas. We're open late November, throughout December, and we have the same glassware, same drinks at each location, similar decor, although not the same decor, because every place is a little different.
So it's not open year round. It's open only during the Christmas period. Yeah.
Originally, it was from Thanksgiving until New Year's, and now it's just been getting longer because people seem to be knocking on the door earlier and earlier to have a little bit of a Christmas cheer with everything that's going on in the world.
And you have a plethora of Christmas decorations, I understand.
Yeah, it kind of looks, it's very over the top. It's like a Christmas experience. And the drinks have a lot of, cinnamon and nutmeg in them, things like that. But it's fun. And then we have bright red Cocktail Kingdom barware for that.
And going back to the bars for a second, I know that, I see Nico and all of his travels, and when he travels around, is he doing these pop-ups? These are pop-ups on behalf of Mace, and he's kind of educating while he's going around and creating entertainment too?
He does various things. So yes, a lot of them we do Mace pop-ups as well as he represents his bar in Paris called Danico.
Oh yeah.
And we have bar where we have the double teardrop bar spoon that we make with Nico, and his mix tin, which is like a mixing glass, but it's made of aluminum, double walled aluminum, so it's durable. So we have different barware with him. So he represents sort of everything as he travels around the world, but definitely he does a lot of Mace pop-ups to represent the bar worldwide.
He's kind of your ambassador in a way.
Yeah. He is, and I don't know how he keeps up the schedule he does, but he does it.
He's young, he's young
at heart.
Young at heart, right? I know. So what's with the last couple of minutes that we have left, I know this has flown by, hasn't it, Dad?
Yes, it has. Unlike other interviews we've done, this has truly flown by.
Those shall remain nameless. No, Dad.
Every interview is exciting, and they're all on different subjects. We don't just do cocktails or bartending or spirits.
Great. Now we're gonna get tons of hate mail.
No, we're not. So it's refreshing to be able to go back a little bit to the bar and cocktail world.
No, it is. But the cliche question: what do you have coming up next?
Well, I'm opening a new bar. Which I said I would never do again.
Wait. Why did you say that you would never open up a bar again? Is it because it actually was making you stressed?
Well, I do get stressed with opening bars. Yeah, that's one of the limits. Just things have been going well with Cocktail Kingdom, Miracle, and other things that I'm doing, and I don't really feel the need to open a bar. I'm happy with Katana Kitten's success. The cabinet isn't known yet, but hopefully that mezcal bar will get known, and Mace certainly has had its, been spending some time in the sun. So that's all good. So I don't feel the need to do a lot more. It's been interesting. I want to start lecturing a little bit more. I think it's a lot of our barware for Cocktail Kingdom's out there, like the Leopold Jigger, which a lot of other companies copy. Leopold is my great-grandfather. I named it after him. I mean, a lot of this barware, like the Corico strainer, didn't just happen. It's copied all the time. And Don Lee designed it with Cocktail Kingdom, and there's a lot of things. So what's next for me is kind of hitting the road again and getting out there. And when you started in the industry, you remember there wasn't a great place to get good barware. And then Cocktail Kingdom started, and we were the only game in town. Yep. And now younger bartenders don't always realize that this was something that wasn't always available. And I think it's fun to get out there. I used to lecture a lot with Jim Meehan about cocktail books. And I mean, he would bring a lot to the table about just the spirit of bartending and educating oneself. And that's my next thing, is getting out there, lecturing more, talking to people about the history of barware, so people aren't complacent about things and all the tools, literally and figuratively that they have available to them now. Whether it's different types of liqueurs, different barware, all these things that I think people would do well by taking a step back and realizing what's available to them now and how to use them, and to respect history and to create modern things, but historically based, is my passion. So that's more what I want to do. Get out there, lecture, talk about mezcal, talk about barware, talk about cocktail books again, because it's been a while.
I love that. Well, it's all about talking about what you love.
Yes, it is. And I might add, Greg, that I am so proud of your accomplishments.
Thank you.
It's just, serious. It's just incredible what you've done.
Greg, just call him Dad.
In a very short period of time.
Thanks, Dad.
Well, I remember the first time we sat across a plane from each other. We were like on opposite sides of the aisle on an airplane.
Yes.
I don't know how many years ago, but a long time ago. And I was kind of new in the industry, and we were chatting, and it was just like a more basic sort of get to know each other conversation. And then years later, I still remember the people that were kind of the founding people that kept started the cocktail renaissance and then kept it going. And now it's mainstream pretty much, which isn't a bad thing.
Absolutely.
I know. It's crazy. Cheers to that.
Yeah.
Greg, thank you. This has been awesome.
Thank you very much,
so
Greg.
much.
Wonderful to see you again. Cheers.
Cheers.
Wow, Dad, that was great to have Greg Boehm, who's really like the master of a lot of things, isn't he?
Yes, he is a master of all trades.
And it led us to have this next guest on because with Greg, we touched on bar tools and cocktail kingdom and Japanese bar tools. And what, Dad?
Yeah, I don't know much about Japanese bar tools, so I am really anxious to speak with Chris and find out all about how these tools differ from your standard bar tools.
So we decided to call up our good pal, Chris Tunstall from A Bar Above, and he's here joining us from his offices near San Diego. Chris, welcome to the Cocktail Guru podcast.
Guys, it is really great to be here, and thank you for the invitation. I'm really excited to be on this side of the microphone for once.
It's great to have you.
Well, we thought it would be fitting to have you because, we all know Greg Boehm is kind of like the OG when it comes to bar tools, and Cocktail Kingdom is kind of the modern day OG. Your company is a modern day bar tool supply company, and I presume you have Japanese bar tools and have had experience with Japanese bar tools. So we just wanted to kind of get your perspective on the tools themselves. Like what is, for those who may not know, what is a typical Japanese style bar tool? Why do we use it? Why is it beneficial?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Greg could probably speak to this a lot better than I can. But, a lot of Japanese bartending is really steeped in tradition. It never really had a prohibition like we had here. So a lot of the tools, a lot of the techniques have just kind of carried forward all the way through till now. And it's really interesting because a lot of the focus on Japanese bartending, the style, is a lot of it is focused on customer service, on the visual aspects of it, and making the best possible cocktail using the best possible ingredients, which also mean the best possible tools. And sometimes it could be funny because it could be a little bit counterintuitive, because if you're looking for the result of the best cocktail, it might not actually be the most visually appealing device that you're going to use to make that drink. So a lot of the emphasis, like I said, is put on the show to make the customer feel really good about what they're about to enjoy, because we always consume with our eyes first. So the visual aspect there is really, really high. The quality of the bar tools themselves they're phenomenal. I mean, they are
second to none. It's not your. I mean, listen, when we first started in the industry, you'd go to the I would go to Chinatown and I would get my bar tools in these cheap ass bar tool places,
right?
And you'd have to replace those every few years. But once Japanese bar tools came about, it was quality over the quantity. Wouldn't you say?
100%. Yeah. And there is a form and function behind every piece of bar tool that exists behind a Japanese style bar. And it's really well thought out. The approach that they take is, just quality craftsmanship. And it's just something that goes across even past bar tools. With woodworking tools, it's the same thing. It's just really, really honed and perfect for what they're using it for.
And they're aesthetically beautiful as well. Correct?
They're gorgeous.
Yeah.
Oh, you see it on a bar top. You walk into a bar and you see these bar tools on the bar top. You know that they're serious.
Yeah.
One thing that I've run into in the past, because I know you do the same, Chris, designing bar programs, is convincing the bar owners and the operators to splurge on these bar tools because they are a bit more expensive than your basic bar tools.
Yeah, there's definitely that expense part of it. And, I think the way I try to frame it is from that customer service perspective too, of like, this is what your customers are going to see. It's a kind of a mark on your brand. Like we stand for quality. And so, you could command a little bit more of a price with that when you have all the visual elements kind of pointing all in the same direction. So it's part of the branding process of a bar. And the other thing is, like you mentioned, Jonathan, the quality, like, how many bar tools have you thrown away because they've fallen apart over the years? If you invest in some really great bar tools, they're probably going to last a lifetime. And that's no joke, like seriously, a lifetime.
Right. I know. I mean, all my bar tools last quite a long time. I mean, I use those good quality bar tools. And you started a bar above how long ago? And kind of just briefly, what got you into doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was a lot less gray in my beard when we started a bar above. I was a young, eager bartender with stars in my eyes. And we started off as a blog. And that's actually how our paths have crossed over the years. And, our focus when we started the blog was really communicating cutting edge techniques. Because if at the time we started I had the idea in 2008, but we didn't start producing content until 2013. And at that time, unless you were in San Francisco or New York, as you know, you didn't have access to a lot of this cutting edge technique, and reading about it and living it are two very, very different things. So a lot of that information didn't get carried out into other areas. So that was a focus of why we started Bar Above, was to communicate those techniques, both physical and culinary. And then we've kind of evolved from that into manufacturing bar tools, because at that time there were only a handful of bar suppliers in the country, and we felt like, we could provide a little higher quality, better customer service on our end, and really give bartenders a good customer service experience. Because I think that's something that's very lacking in our industry from a bartender perspective is, we give out customer service all day long, but very few people give us customer service. So that was kind of the hallmark of our brand since basically day one.
Yeah. And I think we met, was it at San Antonio Cocktail Conference?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think I was doing a seminar. I think you guys came to see one of the seminars, if I'm not mistaken, or something.
Something like that. And I think we had a craft bartender summit, back in like 2000 somethings. And you were one of our guests. You were talking about getting started with consulting.
Yes.
I think that was the focus that you did.
Yes, that's right.
Which went over really well, by the way.
Thank you. Well, this guy next to me, or however you're looking, is the guy who kind of got me into this. So
right.
you can blame him. I blame you, Dad.
Well done, sir.
Well, please do. I accept.
Chris, thank you so much. It's so great to see your face, and I'm sure we'll cross paths in person again, hopefully very, very soon.
Absolutely. It was great to connect, guys.
Thank you, Chris. That does it for today's show. If you enjoy what we do, please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also support the show with a small monthly donation to help sustain future episodes. Just click on the donate button at the top of our website and choose your donation amount. To learn more about future guests, visit www.thecocktailgurupodcast.com or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
The Cocktail Guru podcast is produced by First Reel Entertainment and distributed by EatsDrinksTV, a service of the Center for Culinary Culture, home of the Cocktail Collection, and is available via Anchor, Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, and wherever you listen to your favorite shows.